Sir, Mr. Cheng, a Singapore graduate student in the US, emailed this to me, and I quote, "Retaining 377A on the basis that the conservative majority is uncomfortable with homosexuality sets a dangerous precedent for our society. It suggests that any majority group can now regulate the private activities of a minority group because it is uncomfortable with it or feels threatened by it. Imagine what this means for the many majority versus minority fault lines within the Singapore society. Chinese versus others, citizens versus non-citizens, heartlanders versus cosmopolitans, a majority religious group versus a minority one. Breeding the majority group's self-righteousness to demand deference from the minorities will weaken the social cohesion of our society based on mutual respect and tolerance. The repeal of Section 377A will make a clear statement on how, in Singapore, we will always have to find ways to live harmoniously with people who are not like us." Sir, many people have described the repeal of 377A as a slippery slope. I think Mr. Cheng has identified the true slippery slope that we face today. For all of these reasons, I believe the continued retention of 377A to be unconstitutional. I think the arguments in the petition are valid and correct in law, and so I presented it to Parliament. I humbly ask my fellow members to consider these arguments and to acknowledge their cogency in this debate. Sir, that was the petition. I will now speak on why I support the repeal of 377A, quite apart from its unconstitutionality. Contrary to how many have sought to frame the issue, the repeal of 377A is not a gay issue. It is not about gay rights. It is not just for gays or friends or relatives of gays. No. It is about fairness, justice and non-discrimination. It is about tolerance, understanding and inclusiveness. It is about upholding the fundamental protections afforded by the Constitution, the basic pillars underpinning our country. These are issues for all Singaporeans. The response to the petition bore this out. The signatories were a broad and diverse group, showing that the issues cut across all lines and resonated universally with people. Straight and gay, male and female, young, middle-aged and old, civil servants, professionals and students, religious and non-religious, they all signed the petition. They all understood the guiding light of treating others as you want them to treat you. They were united by the common belief that 377A is unfair, unjust and wrong, and hence should be repealed. And such lengths they went to convey the strength of their belief. So many, including straight men, went out to collect signatures on their own accord, without being asked, completely voluntarily. An 18-year-old student collected 70 signatures. Two others collected 150 signatures each. Madam Tan, a 63-year-old mother of two heterosexual sons, collected signatures from her peers. She took it upon herself to do so. She believed that she needed to do it for, and I quote, a healthy attitude towards life. She collected 5 signatures. Apart from the petition, there was also an online open letter to the Prime Minister calling for a repeal of 377A. This open letter, which collected 8,120 signatures, was handed to the Prime Minister's office earlier today. Mr. Goh signed it, and he articulated the universality of the issue when he wrote, and I quote, "I must admit that I am somewhat homophobic, but I believe that nobody should be discriminated against for his belief, or in this case, sexual inclination. If they make me uncomfortable, I just don't mix in their social circle." I do not know anything about Mr. Goh, but I am humbled by his principled stand against discrimination. It is the right and noble path, standing fast to our principles, even in the face of personal dislike. Surely we can all learn from him. Sir, the government has stated that it will not proactively enforce 377A. This may be meant as a compromise, but it is unsatisfactory and problematic. The Law Society has pointed out that this position is an admission that 377A is out of step with the modern world, adding that it risks bringing the law into disrepute. I also quote Professor Michael Hall. "The moral force of the criminal law is blunted if there are crimes which are, the government assures the public, never to be enforced, and its perpetrators never brought to court and punished. The criminal laws are the ground rules of our society, and if it is to be accorded the respect it deserves, it must be reserved for conduct which the government considers to be clearly harmful to society." Sir, the Senior Minister of State has noted that there have been convictions under 377A for cases involving abuse of young persons and acts performed in public. And I completely agree that such instances and such acts should remain criminalized. But 377A, as it now stands, is not limited to those situations, and it covers private consensual acts between adults as well. If the government intends to criminalize only the abuse of young persons and public acts, then 377A should be amended to do this. But it is not being amended. Furthermore, not proactively enforcing 377A does not mean that its retention is without cause. The government says that it seeks to reflect the moral values of the majority. But what about the human cost to gay persons and their families? What about the cost to Singapore from those who leave Singapore because of this law? What price this reflection and endorsement of public morality? The majority of Singaporeans seem to speak as if the non-enforcement of 377A means that everything is fine. But the majority would say that because they are not the subjects of discrimination, because they are not the minority who have to live under the threat of 377A, which is a sword of Damocles that could fall with a change of policy by the government of the day. Sir, let me share with this House the pain voiced by some signatories of the online open letter. Madam Mark is a 69-year-old mother of a gay 40-something son. He and his partner have lived with her for over 13 years. She called them the best things that had happened to her in her 69 years in Singapore. She wrote, "Please tell me, Mr. PM, why are you teaching me to be ashamed of them? If this country doesn't want them, where can they go? Please tell me." Madam K, a civil servant, wrote, "My son is gay. He came out to me when he was 22, and I was upset and I blame myself for why my son is gay. I blame myself all the time. But he is my son. He has not changed from the first day I gave birth to him or the person he is today. I love him for who he is, for what he is. It sickens me that people suggest that just because he is gay, our family isn't what it is. We are a family. What people do in their private lives shouldn't be an issue to anyone, as long as it doesn't harm anyone else. He doesn't know I'm doing this, but I support this repeal. He is my son, and he is not a criminal. If I can accept him, his mother who gave birth to him, who are these people who so quickly judge him and condemn him?